TMNT episode 189. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
How's it going? You usually say my first and last name, Dave, so I'm a little, thrown off for us.
I haven't been saying last names for like a month.
Have you not been saying last names? Okay, shit.
I'm not really sure why I made that change, but I think, you know what? Actually, I haven't been saying last names, I think, because I listened to you and Chris and you and Josh, and you don't say last names when you introduce people.
No, I tried. If they're returning, I don't really say last names again.
So I think I was like, he doesn't say last names. Like, I'll try it, and I've been doing it since then. So It's the middle of August.
I don't edit the podcast, so I don't listen to us after it's been recorded.
So, but yeah, I don't know. Seems a little bit more, we're almost to 200 episodes, and by now I don't really know if last names are that relevant in this world currently.
It's in the thing when you download it. It says who made the podcast. So
yeah.
But only weirdos look at the metadata for podcasts, so who knows? Yeah.
All right, so we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services. If you're listening on our podcast services, thank you. Please consider subscribing or regularly downloading, whether you stream it or just to know it's there. If you're able to leave a review, please do that. If you're able to do it with words, that's great as well. That helps move us up in the algorithms. Sharing the show, following us on all the stuff that's linked in the show notes is free as well. We stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming. Typically on Tuesday night. This week is Wednesday, just reasons. We're a Twitch affiliate, so you guys are able to subscribe to us if you choose. If you link your Twitch account and your Amazon account, you get Prime Gaming. You get a bunch of free, mostly cosmetic stuff in other games, 3 or 4 games a month. But the coolest part you get is the free subscription to a Twitch subscriber of your choice. If you want to use that on us, that's awesome. Just remember, it doesn't auto renew, so you kind of got to periodically check it for us if you're or whomever you're supporting. You can do it on mobile. I think once you do it one time on the desktop, it should show up on mobile easily. So, and we don't have to be live for you to do it. So please consider just checking that out while you're waiting at a doctor's office or not at a traffic light. Because I know a bunch of states are changing.
You pick less depressing things to be doing other than being at a doctor or being at a traffic light.
Waiting to pick up your kid from school.
Even more depressing, because then you're just like, man, I could take this car and leave and just never turn back.
Okay, so what's a less depressing time where you are sitting waiting for something and you pick up your phone?
I don't know, man. Like, you're about to do something exciting. I don't know. You're about to quit your job, Dave. You did that a couple months ago, and that was probably exciting.
Good For the record, that was 8 months ago.
That was a long time ago. Doesn't feel like it, Dave. I don't know why. Probably because I look at podcast numbers as opposed to actual time.
All right. So, with all that said, everything else is linked in the show notes. Please consider, liking, following. All those things are free, and there are multiple ways you can support us. Those are all linked in the show notes. Also, we're going to jump right into our news.
Yeah. I would say this is a pretty wide range of news that we have this week. The first thing that kind of caught me off guard is DC Universe Online is coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. This one, Dave, honestly, I didn't know it was really still going. Like, I knew it was still going, but I didn't know if it was enough players for them to make this jump. But the announcement came from Daybreak Games, and it basically said that this holiday there will be native versions of this game, this MMO that's been around for 13 years. And there will also come some quality of life improvements, some the typical graphical improvements you'll see moving to a stronger platform, and also some gameplay changes as well. So it seems like a lot of effort's going into that. Before it launches on the new platforms, you'll start to see some of those changes get implemented. So it sounds like they're going to roll it out. Basically, they're just kind of giving a roadmap for the rest of the year. But DC Universe Online is still going, and it is coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X. And Dave, I don't know if you dabbled in this. I feel like everyone's dabbled in this at least once or twice.
I think I've actually done some stuff on our previous life that we did some stuff for content, like a code giveaway streaming stuff that I did mess around and stream this game. If you had to guess the estimated daily players of this game across all platforms for the month of June, what do you think it is?
50K, maybe 75. I haven't looked this up. I'm assuming you pulled up some sort of number
estimated daily players is 8.6 thousand.
Okay, so did you have monthly? Because monthly, I like.
Yeah, it's this is so last 30 or July of 2023, 481.1 is what it says.
Okay.
I don't know what 481.1 what. I'm assuming K, right?
Yeah, it would have to be that, which is way more than I thought.
Right. So we're talking about close to 500,000 players.
Yeah. That makes sense then why they would still do this. But
which is a decrease of 51.4% for that month.
I would say though, like with this especially, like this is a full free to play game. Like you can subscribe to a monthly thing that gets you like additional like character slots and like costumes and all sorts of stuff. So the fact that like business must be good if they're gonna bring this to other platforms, because the counter argument is like, well, they need to bring it to more platforms to like inject life into their player base, but there needs to be a player base already there to feel that this work is going to pay off. It must mean that a lot of people from their community, because apparently a good chunk of the players are from console. Like this is on PC, PlayStation, and I believe it's on Switch as well. But a majority of their player base is on PS4, so I would imagine that player base, especially if it's as big as you're saying, we're probably being like, hey, I want to play this on a PS5. Like I want a native version of this on PS5. So this is probably a tactic to keep those players they already have, and I doubt they're expecting to increase their player base significantly by doing this. This must just be to retain what they can.
Yeah, I mean, the Steam charts, like even as of 15 minutes ago, 552 people logged on today.
Yeah, and knowing that the PlayStation base is the bigger base, pretty good numbers for a game that came out in like 2010.
2012 it looks like.
2012. Okay, I might be thinking of like beta time, because I remember this game being around for forever, because it started on the PS3. I put a ton of time into it when it was on the PS3, and then I think I want to say they launched on PS4. Like they had launch day version of this game on PS4. So I remember
this is on the Switch too.
Yeah, that's what I'll say. Yeah, the Switch there, but
Switch, PS3, PS4, Windows, and Xbox One.
Yeah, but it sounds like the PlayStation one is the one that people are playing, or where a good chunk of their player base is. But I remember playing it on the PS4.
It's not. Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I'm digging around. I can't tell if this is just Steam. There's a site called MMO Stats. So I don't know if they're only pulling from Steam, but like June 2023 estimated monthly average daily players 8.9 thousand,
which isn't too bad. Especially you would imagine those players aren't consistently the same players every single day, so like, there's probably a good amount of people just playing this game in order for them to justify coming to PlayStation. I don't know if this is enough to pull me back into the game for a third time, because I played a PS3, played a PS4. But the good thing is, like, as you would expect, servers, they're still going to be on the same server as a PlayStation and PC people. And you're going to be able to keep your same character and keep your progression and keep anything that you would purchased. So all that stuff is in there, which means my character, who I don't remember the name of, that has flash powers, super speed, is still somewhere on a server that I can maybe return to and figure out how far in that game that I got.
Remember how to play first and then remember where you are.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, no, I mean, this is cool to see that like this MMO surviving, and surprisingly a lot of MMOs do survive and are able to maintain like a player base for a long time. I mean, Final Fantasy 14 just hit their 10-year anniversary.
I mean, I think it has a lot to do with like, you could have, and I'll just use small numbers, like you could have a goal and aspiration to have 10,000 players play your game, but if you have like 1,000 dedicated players, like those 1,000 players make up 80% of your revenue, because they're engaging with the microtransactions probably, or they're grinding or playing the game and
have that sub.
Yep. So I mean, Yeah, I forgot it was a subscription based also.
It's free to play, but there's an optional subscription.
Right.
Yeah.
So your hardcore player, like the 80-20 rule, like 20% of your population is generating 80% of your revenue. Yeah, but then you just want to figure out a way to get that 20% population to grow, and the way you grow that is to grow the basic player population. And you're kind of getting to the point right now where most console owners, I would say, have probably quote unquote retired their Xbox One or their PS4. Now that could be it went into a different room and it turns into a Netflix machine, or it turns into like your backup for playing. It's in the guest bedroom, it's in the basement, it's in a secondary or third location, and you play your game, like wherever your gaming setup is, whether it's on a desk in an office in your living room. And if your PS5 becomes your primary console, DC's not on there, right? Or is this a PS5 version? Never mind.
Yeah. You can get a backwards compatible version, but the thing is, like, the MMO space, it's very easy for players to move to another MMO, especially if those other MMOs have like a native version on their platform. Like Final Fantasy XIV has a native PS5 version. There's graphical updates coming in the future. I know Warframe kind of teeters in like that MMO space, but like that's another one, native PS5 port, and expansions coming all the time. So if your DC Universe, your player base might be okay playing backwards compatible, but they might look towards those other sort of games, like even a Destiny, and go like, well, let me at least play a native game. And it sounds silly, but if you're a hardcore player, you're thinking about like native versions on the platform that you paid money on.
Remnant 2 has taken a lot of just in general a lot of Destiny players. While Destiny's been in a downward thing, Remnant 2 has done a really good job, and I think it's part of the reason why they've announced in the last week or two like pretty successful figures for them, like over like 1.5 million copies sold and since launch or something. And a lot of it has to do with that they're releasing at the right time and quality content right in front of your face, like you talked about. Do you think that we'll see anything from Plus or Game Pass to incentivize players as this moves to the new consoles?
I can see one of the platforms doing like some sort of costume pack. We've seen that happen with Plus and Game Pass pretty frequently, where like, hey, there's like some little costume pack or little XP boost thing. I can see them doing something like that, specifically with PlayStation, because this PlayStation is like their major platform. Just because of sheer size of the, just
even if it's at this point just entices the PS5 owner to remember it exists and to download the game again. Yeah,
especially like this is such an easy sell to get people to at least in the door of like, hey, a DC game with all your favorite heroes that you create your own character. That's enough to get people in the door.
And the success of Diablo and Baldur's Gate does nothing but help this game.
Yep, it's a good time to like, hey, did you like that sort of game? Well, maybe you might like this MMO. Especially DC Universe Online, the gameplay isn't as traditional as other MMOs. Like, it's very like combo heavy and like.
But it looks like Baldur's Gate and Diablo. So.
Yeah, it definitely plays kind of like that. But I'm talking about if you compare it to MMOs, that tend to be like turn based or like not as action oriented. DC Universe fits in that like spectrum of like, oh, you did like Diablo, so you're cool with top-down, third-person sort of action.
Here's an easier one to play, and you can have powers that you relate to more than you do it like versus like I don't know if this exists, but a mage like
and then
you said you can have flash powers,
and then you have like 10 to 13 years of content that you can catch up on that might take you years to get into.
This is cool. So
it's nice to know that it's still kicking around. I don't know if I'll jump back into it, but it's nice to know it's still alive. In other news, we have Xbox launching a new strike enforcement conduct program, or strike enforced conduct program. So Xbox is implementing a new system to try and cut down on toxic players. This one, I would say, is a little bit better than previous ones because they actually kind of outline things a little bit more clear than what we've gotten in the past. Because Dave mentioned before this, like, feels like we have a story like this every couple years of like, hey, we're going to get rid of toxic players, and nothing comes of it. But the new system is an 8-strike system, which will punish toxic players with suspensions suspensions for each strike, but after their 8th strike, it will be a lifetime ban. Some strikes, it'll vary on or some conduct will get different amount of strikes. So cheating or using profanity could lead to 1 strike. Sexual harassment or bullying could lead to 2 strikes, and then like hate speech will lead to 3 strikes. And they put out like a whole chart explaining like the whole process of like when someone reports you on where that goes, and then you can pull up your profile to see how many strikes you have against yourself, and also like when that your strikes get reset. So a strike will be on your account for 6 months before it gets wiped away. A lot of wiggle room, it seems, with this system, but it seems like it could be the right step.
So here's my first problem with this. Do you know how to report somebody through Xbox?
Well, they have a new system now on their website. It's going to be a matter of like, how do you get people that aren't on your website to know that there's a system? Because
I don't. I know how to report people in games. Like, you highlight their name and you can report the player. Like, they do something in Destiny, or if they do something in Division, or they do something in, like in Overwatch, or any of those other where you can actually like see the roster and see who's in your instance, and you can usually click on their name, view their profile, view their build, this, that, the other, and you can report them. But you can report them in game. I also, to be totally clear, I don't know how to report somebody directly through Steam. I don't know how to report somebody directly through Xbox or PlayStation.
Well, the funny thing is, I've reported people on PlayStation, and PlayStation does that thing where the game could have its own reporting system, but then it also can kick you out to the PlayStation menu where you can report someone there. And PlayStation lets you like upload clips and screenshots of like what happened. So it's definitely easier, but it's something I only found out because I was digging into menus. Yeah.
And I think with the Discord implementation and integration, this is even harder. Because I feel like in we've heard about this in a PlayStation party chat, and we've heard about this in an Xbox party chat, where if they have to, they can go and get the dialogue that was spoken in the party chats. They can get them.
And Discord can do that as well, but it's another
correct.
platform.
But I just feel like there's so many different branches of console reporting, game reporting, social reporting. Like, it's just it's a lot.
The only thing that I can hope is it's you kind of have to bury a system like this so it doesn't get abused.
Correct.
Because like,
he killed me 10 times in Call of Duty, I'm reporting him.
Yeah, or he said shit, and profanity is a strike. Like, so there's a fine line in that. So you have to almost bury it a little bit so it's not abused. But I do like the idea that like you can see your account and see how many strikes, so you don't get this bullshit. Like, I hate every time I'm on Twitter, someone will be like, I was banned on PSN and I have no idea why, and it's just like, why. Yeah,
Bungie's had to do that too, where people have complained to them so much that they try to go, hey, like, you can report it to the help forum, and you can, I see that more than anything just because of what my social circle is on Twitter with Destiny right now. And they keep kind of poking the bear, and then Bungie goes, okay, here you go. Like,
yeah, God,
here's why.
There was one a couple weeks ago that I saw on Twitter that was going around where someone was just like, my 10-year-old that only plays Rocket League was banned on PSN, and they don't even know how to use voice chat. And it's just like, no, they know how to use voice chat. Like, you might want to have a discussion with your kid. Like,
right.
Someone felt they needed to
go to that extreme,
to report your kid, and then PlayStation thought they needed to do something to that person. So like, the idea that you can then like pull up an account and see why you have a strike, or at least to know what type of strike you have. So then if you are wrongly accused of something, you at least know what you're fighting against, as opposed to like playing like the miming, mystery thing when you're like putting a complaint in to like Xbox or PlayStation. But yeah, this is. I think this is a good system. Will it be used? How long will it last? Who knows? Like,
it's always good to have some kind of policy. So
we'll see. Well, in a year they'll have another policy, or they're going to say like, actually, we need 20 strikes because 8 is just too little.
The one I remember the most being talked about was Rainbow Six, and they came out with this whole like huge blog post and system they put in place, and from what I understand, is Rainbow Six is still toxic as hell.
It's the only thing I think is more toxic than that is like League of Legends, which is why like some games started to do the thing where it's like, okay, we're not going to ban people, we're just going to put them all together, like to make toxic servers that they're all in. Which, man, I still would love to just. I want to see
visit. Can I get a 15 minute?
Like, do they know that they're all in a toxic server, or do they just like, man, this community really sucks? Like, is there someone in like those toxic servers that is just like, yeah, this is the worst community ever, and they just have no idea that they're terrible and they were put with the bad kids?
Yeah.
All right, but we'll move on to the next story. So Dave, you remember when Embracer a couple months ago said like, we just lost a $2 billion deal and now we have to fire a bunch of people? Do you recall that? Okay.
I do.
So turns out that deal was with Saudi Arabia. The Savvy Games Group apparently last second pulled their $2 billion deal that they were going to make with Embracer, basically a cash injection into Embracer. They pulled the deal from them last second, which kind of sent Embracer kind of on this like weird spiral as a company. It should be noted that Saudi Arabia already has a 8.1% stake in Embracer that they acquired for $1 billion back in 2022. So this would have been, if you just do like the basic math, would have brought them up to almost, 25-30% stake in the company. But no cause was given for this. This was reported by Axios through multiple sources. Embracer they have a earnings financial report that they're going to be filing August 17th, I believe, which is where we're probably going to hear that they're figured out who they're firing and what studios they're going to shutter.
Yeah, which sucks. So.
Yeah. But
I have a guess as to why the Saudi group pulled out.
I have some theories as well.
I think it's tied. Well, I mean, your theory might be different than mine, but I think it's tied to the PGA Tour and Live Golf Tour merger.
That's part of my thing. Yeah.
And they also have they own their own wrestling league, right?
Saudi?
I thought Saudi had something like
they signed a like $10 billion deal with WWE for shows a couple times a year. Which for the most part they've just used WWE as like a propaganda vehicle, and it's been weird.
But I definitely think the Live Tour thing is a huge thing because that is a huge chunk of money that they've been spending. It sucks for Embracer as a whole that lost a potential large investment that they thought they were getting. Personally, I'm all for video game companies getting their funding from wherever they can and from whomever is willing to invest. I don't want to go down this huge rabbit hole, but I mean, Saudis get their money no matter 100 different ways. So,
well, the thing with them is like it's scary in terms of like the people that are in charge trying to like get into other businesses. It's scary for the video game industry because specifically the people in charge, the people that are investing, their way of thinking might not jive well with like Western video game companies, so that's always like a scary proposition. But I do agree. I think the golf thing, no one gives a shit about golf. I'm sorry, no one gives a shit about golf. But as soon as they invested in golf, a lot of people started to give a shit about golf, and I think they were like, "Oh, people really think this is a problem," so now they're kind of scared off of investing. And also, I think Embracer Group like just isn't a good investment, like I'm glad Saudi Arabia isn't going to increase their stake and take over Embracer Group even more, especially like the Lord of the Rings license is owned by Embracer Group. Dark Horse Comics is owned by Embracer Groups. Two things that would probably be severely affected by like new ownership coming from that like games group out of there.
It just comes down to the hypocrisy of people. Just drives me crazy, but that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it at.
And we can get down that rabbit hole as well. But I also think this comes down to just bad investment. Like realistically, they have infinite money. Like
they have the deepest pockets. Yeah, they have the most money. If they could do whatever they want. They could
buy Activision tomorrow. Like we're talking about like a ridiculous amount of like oil money that they have, and I just think they probably saw the $1 billion they put into Embracer just a year ago and
are not seeing the return on.
You're just hearing reports about like games failing constantly at Embracer and them not knowing what to do with their future. So I think that it plays a lot into it of just like, do they want another Live Golf situation? And also, is the investment worth it? if they're gonna put billions of dollars into a company, they maybe just keep flushing money into Nintendo and Capcom as opposed to Embracer Group. So I think it comes down to that. But speaking of Embracer Group's future, they own THQ Nordic. And Dave, did you know THQ Nordic held a live stream where they made a bunch of game announcements last week?
The only reason I know this is because I'm subscribed to their YouTube channel and it showed up on my feed after it happened.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know until like way later because one of the trailers just caught me off guard, and I'm like, wait, who just announces this and just doesn't
so the way
make a big
it
deal
hit
about it?
the way it hit my YouTube feed was there was like the I guess whatever event this was that I wasn't aware of, and I don't even know what time it happened, but the event itself, like the 45-minute video, hit my feed. And to be honest with you, I'm probably subscribed to THQ Nordic because of Darksiders or something.
100%, I guarantee that's what you're subscribed to.
Yeah. So, and then after that, it was the PlayStation. It would be like the PlayStation feed and the Xbox feed with trailer. I'm like, what the heck is this? It's like, because it was, and I'm the only reason it's not a third one is because I don't think I'm subscribed to Steam's YouTube channel if they have one or whatever, to where like they released a trailer. It was like the PlayStation version of the trailer and the Xbox version of the trailer. Only difference is it has the green logo in the corner or the blue logo in the corner.
Yeah, basically I found out because similar to you, I just saw like the two things we're going to talk about, their trailers come out from multiple different YouTube channels. Like I saw IGN's trailer, GameSpot's trailer, Xbox and PlayStation's. But the two major things that were announced, I'm sorry, the other stuff kind of looked cool, but not.
No, yeah, I agree. No marquee franchise, no big name, no.
That aren't these two things that we're about to talk about.
Other than the two, no marquee trailer, no big name, no amazing looking gameplay or something super unique.
No studio that's going to blow our mind of like, oh my god, the next game from them.
Probably, like we've talked about, like a whole bunch of 6.5 to 7.5 games, which are fine.
Yeah, which is
just
a
whole bunch.
Which is the thing that we've been saying the industry desperately needs, is that double A thing, and that's what THQ Nordic does for better or worse. But the two games that we're going to talk about are a new South Park game, a new 3D South Park game, called South Park Snow Day was shown. So this is being shown off as a co-op adventure game being developed by Question Games, the studio behind Blackout Club and Magic Circle, which I know Dave is just like, yeah, those are games. Blackout Club was actually a pretty cool like little co-op game that used like some audio stuff. And Magic Circle, I want to say, was an early PS4 game, very narrative driven, but like small indie experiences. So this is coming out in 2024, and I don't know if it's because it's 3D, but it just made me reminisce about like the N64, PS1 South Park games that came out. Dave, I know you've always been kind of interested in like the Stick of Truth stuff, the Obsidian South Park games, the Ubisoft South Park games.
Yeah,
what did you think about this?
I'm not a huge South Park person. Like I'll watch clips of South Park when they talk about like something that's trending, or
this
like
is as much as
like,
I can tolerate nowadays for South Park. Is
I don't. It's not like must see TV for me or a new South Park episode or anything like that. The like Fractured, like I've seen tons of streams of people playing like Fractured Butthole, Stick of Truth. Like we're almost like in terms of a turn-based RPG, like in terms of like foundational functional game, people have said they're amazing. It just matters if you can deal with the South Park aesthetic, which isn't for everybody. But it is for somebody, and that's fine. And seeing more stuff like this is refreshing because people enjoy those kind of games, and it's nice for them to play a game that they enjoy. And I love getting a South Park fan to play a turn-based game and be like, hey, if you had a really good time with that game, you should try this one.
The only thing that kind of is a turn off for this game is you can tell it's lower budget because they went 3D. They're not going for like, let's emulate the art style of the show, which was a big thing with Stick of Truth and Fractured Butthole. I remember you didn't really play those games, but I know when we went to Ubisoft events together, you were like, I might play that because it was entertaining enough.
Well, ultimately the problem is like, if I play a game that looks like that, like bright colors, cell shaded, cartoon looking, Owen is going to want to watch. Yeah. And he cannot do that with yet. South Park.
And maybe a year or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this definitely looks like it could be really fun. It's a co-op adventure, thing where the kids are on a snow day and trying to save the world, so they're in their imagination again, which I think is a great idea. It could be really fun, but definitely I saw the reaction and kind of felt it too when you saw like how it looked of like, oh, okay, so this isn't what we're accustomed to. It's something that's will probably release quicker.
What are you gonna play? Super Mario RPG or South Park Snow Day?
Super Mario RPG. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So they need to fill a different void, and they're going with like hey, this is a 3D game that looks. Or
I mean, again, like if you had to choose as well, Mario vs. Rabbids, South Park.
Ooh, that's a closer one, but maybe Rabbids. Yeah.
Right. So they're both. I don't know if this is even turn based. Like the last two.
This looks like it's going to be more. Not
adventure
RPG
style. Yeah.
So that it's an interesting take. I do like the idea that they're gonna not just do the same formula because
correct. Yeah, that's good.
The first one, Stick of Truth, that was Obsidian, and then the second one was just Ubisoft internal.
San Francisco. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the idea that they're another studio unrelated to that, it was gonna try and do a turn-based RPG just didn't make sense.
And ultimately, I love longevity franchises, but I mean, South Park's got to be 25 years old, right?
Yeah, it should
30?
be. Yeah, mid-90s. I don't know what year it is anymore. South Park. Yeah, so they're on like season 27 now.
Yeah.
So they've been around a while.
It's a long time. So
yeah,
I just don't. I'd be very curious of what they're like. That's another statistical thing. I'd be very curious of like, because we've talked about that before, like the age of player moving with games. Like I still play Mario games, but there's certain things that I don't play anymore. But I'd be curious, like, after everybody turns 28, do they stop watching South Park? Like,
yeah.
So it's just like that kind of statistical data always intrigues me a lot. But overall, like, I think it's great that South Park is still alive and kicking, and that a company is making a game that like a lot of people will probably have fun with, and will go to the store and pick it up because it says South Park on it. That's great.
Yeah. The other game, which I think me and Dave talked about it a couple months ago, because like one of the was it the Nickelodeon or Paramount people just like blabbed that this was coming, but they didn't say who was developing it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin was officially announced, and there was a trailer that didn't show the gameplay. It was just a cinematic looking thing. It's going to be developed by Black Forest Games, the studio behind the Destroy All Humans 2 remake, which worries me because the executive was like, yeah, this is going to be our God of War sort of experience, and that doesn't really give me God of War experience vibes. But the trailer looked cool. If you are slightly interested in this game, just look up the trailer on YouTube. So many fucking articles about this trailer ruins the whole the whole like surprise of who is the last Ronin, who's the surviving turtle. So stay away from articles about this game because man, it's the whole point.
So two problems with this trailer for me.
Okay.
One, I had a really hard time telling it was a Ninja Turtle game at all. Like in terms of the little black and white aesthetic and what they were trying to tell, I was like, "What is this?" And like it was, from my perspective, I understand. I don't know. I don't understand enough of The Last Ronin. I understand what The Last Ronin is somewhat from you telling me and from doing some stuff that I've read before of the darker age of Ninja Turtles, which
how it used to be when the original comics,
which is even before my time, and I'm not a comic guy at all.
Yeah.
But the premise of playing as a Ninja Turtle, in a hack and slash style game is something that I've told everybody for years. I want Rocksteady to make a 4-player Ninja Turtle co-op game. So any Ninja Turtle game I'm gonna be interested in, pay attention to, and then you're gonna sit there and say God of War style, then you get my attention even more.
Yeah.
The second thing is I fucking hate trailers that say game in development.
Yeah, this definitely was a thing that we've talked about previously, that this definitely seems more like a trailer to attract talent than it is to sell the game. Like, they're trying to sell the game to get people to work for them to develop this game, as opposed to trying to get me and Dave excited that this game's coming. Because there was no release window on this or anything. It was just a very moody trailer, sets the tone, but at least people know what they should be expecting in this.
Correct. Yes,
this
and also it exists. Like, we know it exists now versus somebody thinking or saying it exists. We've heard people say stuff exists all the time, and companies come out and say no. Like,
yeah.
So.
And this, do you know it exists? Do you know it's coming? It's being developed by a studio that's real. That might not have the pedigree that you want to be taking on this game. Which just kind of makes me wonder. No, like ill will towards Black Forest Studios or the previous works, but like how disconnected like the executives at like Nickelodeon or Paramount are in terms of like, yeah, we're doing a big, crazy budgeted God of War style Turtles game, and then you see THQ Nordic, so you automatically are like, well, it's not going to be God of War budget. Like, God of War costs like $200 million. It's not going to be that. And then you see the studio behind it. It's like, okay, we kind of have a range of what this might look like budget-wise. So that disconnect is always interesting. I know you have to sell your shit.
It's going to be better than Shredder's Revenge, but how much better?
Yeah, it's going to be up there, but it's not going to be quite there. And it's just like, okay, cool, but like, the Destroy All Human 2 remake was good.
Right. Or it all depends on how much, kind of moving down into the next story, it also depends on how much time the studio is given. How much time Black Forest will be given. Like, what is their targeted release date? Because we've seen when a company has time and is given time to fully bake their games. And by time, I mean like 3, 4, 5 years. Like,
yeah. And that's going to be key to this. If this game ends up getting a release date next holiday, then we know like scope is going to be really small, and we'll know
from time of somebody saying, "Hey, it exists," to somebody else going, "Shut the fuck up," to okay, trailer to release. Like,
and there's a lot of things they could do with this game technically to keep that budget down, but also keep like a cool aesthetic, because like the Last Ronin series is like really dark, not just dark and gritty, but like just dark. So you can have a game being in the shadows sort of experience. The Last Ronin is such a cool story, though it's really popular with like comic fans over the last like couple years. But the thing I wonder about is, will it translate to...
Yeah. How much is the people that love the comics, do they actually play video games? And then are they going to play this video game? And people play video games, are they going to be enticed enough to play this?
Yeah. Like, are they going to be like, oh, you mean the fun game about the 4 turtles that eat pizza? Or the fun series? And they're like, yeah, but like, what if 3 of them are dead and one of them's sad? Like, that might not translate that well, you know, for any of the people that are in that camp.
Right. Agreed.
So it's kind of a gamble, I would say, and I wish this gamble was going to a Rocksteady or something.
Right.
But we'll see what's going to happen with that one. But as Dave alluded to earlier, what developers are worried about is the impact Baldur's Gate 3 is going to have on the industry. So according to IGN and a bunch of different websites reached out to people, and basically this started when someone tweeted out that developers are concerned and are worried that Baldur's Gate 3's success and development cycle will put pressure on other developers to make a good game, or a game with the size and scope of Baldur's Gate 3. This has kind of just been a thing all over the internet in terms of like what this could mean. A lot of people that work at major studios were liking tweets talking about how they're worried that player expectations are going to be too high, and amount of pressure being applied to AAA studios is going to be even higher because of Baldur's Gate 3's size, scope, and success. Dave, I feel like we have a story like this every couple years when a game like Baldur's Gate 3 comes out. And I don't think the industry really changes too much outside of this copycat syndrome.
Yeah. So, first of all, like, the amount of responses on these tweets or these stories and the videos and stuff that I saw this week of, whether it's PR people or devs, like, this is where sometimes, like, you just got to shut your mouth and stop talking. And, to see, like, all the, like, the changes, like, just to give perspective, it looks like Baldur's Gate 3 has been in development for roughly 6 years.
6 years, yes.
And I'm trying to find out, it looks like about $100 million.
And 300, I think a team of 300, I believe.
Yeah. So that's a AAA studio.
Yeah, but they got to take their own time.
Yep.
And they made smaller games to roll that budget.
Yeah, I didn't really know that, so I was more curious, like, where did the money come from?
Yeah, and that's a thing that the head of the studio has been kind of coming out, because people were like, oh, Wizards of the Coast, the D&D license people, they must have paid Larian Studios.
And he's like, no.
No, we paid them. They were not going to give us this license for free, or they were not going to give us the license and money. Like, we had to pay them to make this game.
I think that they laid out a really interesting roadmap in 2023 for how to make a successful game. Most of you have told me I will not like this game. But the press around this game and the talk around this game amongst people that are playing it is it's getting to the point where it's intriguing enough to me that I'm still thinking about it. Thankfully, there is stuff coming out. I bought Atlas Fallen this week. The Immortals Avenue game is coming out. Sea of Stars is coming out like within the next 3 weeks, to where stuff is going to stop me from buying it because I have enough stuff to draw my attention. But the story around this is just fascinating. A fully finished product at launch. When you launched it, a fully finished product at launch is rare. Early access to where they listened to what people were doing and playing on the early access standpoint, and the correct and not what we believe to be not feeling rushed for development.
Yeah,
all equals a fully fleshed out $70 video game without microtransactions.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like, so the last game I think that we've had this discussion about was Elden Ring, in terms of like what they did in terms of their world building is going to be unmatched. Just like kind of we hear with Zelda, like we can't, this is going to put unreasonable expectations on other studios, but it doesn't matter. We saw that with Elden Ring. We saw that with Witcher, Witcher 3. So we see this every couple years.
I would argue we saw it with storytelling from Naughty Dog.
Yeah, in terms of like, especially when Uncharted 2 came out, of just like, well, shit, this is what we have to do every time. I think I like the amount of stuff that I'm seeing is like developers worried like we're never going to get 6 years to make a game, which isn't necessary.
Not if you're a publicly traded company, you will not.
Unless you're Naughty Dog, but then you have 2 studios inside your studio, so it like time means nothing at a certain point. Right. But like developers are like, we're not going to be given enough time to make something this amazing, which is true. Like studios won't consistently get 6 years. Like you're not going to see Call of Duty change to a 6-year cycle, and that's true. But also, it worked for the studio because of the amount of people they had. They were working on other stuff, so they've we'll just go the last 10 years. The game's been in development 6 years, so we can go back. They released Divinity, Dragon Commander, Divinity Original Sin, Divinity Enhanced Edition, Divinity Sin 2, and then a Deluxe Edition. So they released like relatively popular game and then an Enhanced Edition to get that more. So like that's where their money's going, is like the Divinity games. For
and they also
years.
built the clout behind Divinity to make a Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, especially Divinity has been around since 2002.
Yeah.
So like there was Divinity, Divine Divinity, Beyond Divinity, Divinity 2, Divinity 2, Divinity, like they have so many Divinity games, so they built up a reputation and were able to take their time with this game. They bet on themselves, buying the license.
They made a decision to do this. They went and bought the license, and once they got the license, then it's kind of like the person building their house and living in their basement. Like, I'm saying, like, you build, you have $100 million or whatever, or I don't even know, $40 million right up front, and you have somebody come and build your foundation, dig your basement, and get you some running water and some electricity in there, and then you build the rest of your stuff over every month. You get a like, oh, I got a bonus this month. Okay, I'm gonna build my living room. Okay, I got another bonus. I'm gonna finish framing the upstairs. And they were working on the game while still working on other stuff and bringing that funding in and doing stuff. I'm sure that there was stuff that was probably waiting to be put into the game until they had the finances to do it.
Yeah, which I think was the whole point of them going early access for as long as they did. Yeah. Like people are underestimating the amount of stuff they did in early access. The reason this game came out so good day one is they were able to fix a ton of bugs via early access playtesting
that the players found, not play testers, players.
Yeah, and then they were able to look at the players like this aspect of. I think it was only the first 3 acts or something like that was in early access. So they were able to really fine tune that data and make this out to where it's just there's nothing stopping other publishers from using early access more. Other than just they don't want to. Do that. The
most recent thing that comes to mind is every time I've gotten a chance to mess with X Defiant from Ubisoft, it's better and better and better.
Because this is one of the few times Ubisoft is actually using the alpha beta phases as opposed to what other companies do, and they just use that time to churn pre-orders.
Well, circling back to what we talked about with the toxic community, I remember playing a Rainbow Six beta 10 days before launch. Yeah. Broke as hell.
Yeah, and
broken.
And that game was broken for months after that.
Yeah, so I don't remember ever hearing about Baldur's Gate being broken in early access. Not broken.
Yeah.
So they whoever owns that studio put a roadmap out, and they stayed on their map.
Yeah.
And now they're getting praise to where this game is probably in the top 5 game of the year conversation amongst all games.
Yeah, this might have leapfrogged like a Zelda. There's a chance.
Tears of the Kingdom 100%. Yeah. It definitely, I'll tell you right now, it's definitely leapfrog Diablo.
Yeah. Diablo, I put the TikTok.
Diablo's plummeting.
Yeah. The worst thing that happened to Diablo is they put a patch out that kind of broke the game. 2 weeks before this game came out. Baldur's Gate came out. The only studio that should be worried about the success of Baldur's Gate 3 is Larian Studios, because they need to follow this up with something.
Right, but now they're going to have the money to do it again.
Yes, but the thing that they're going to have is they only have a license for one game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be what can we do better? Will people follow us to a new game if we don't get the license? Because I'm assuming
whatever game we're going to make now from the makers of Divinity and Baldur's Gate 3 comes blah. Yeah. And is that going to be enough to get the D&D crowd to go, I'm going to go there because of what they did for Divinity and what they did for Baldur's Gate. And if they can continue to get that crowd, then they'll be fine. If that crowd goes and that crowd talks about it, then it'll trickle down.
Yeah.
The thing that I think developers are the most scared about is, like I said, a finished product day one, no microtransactions, no battle pass.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, I feel like the gaming community is very fatigued on microtransactions and battle passes being in dollared product in $50, $60, $70 games.
And here's the thing, if you look at I'm trying to do the numbers in my head. If you look at the last the 3 biggest games this year, you would say Baldur's Gate 3 now.
Mm-hmm.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Yep.
And Hogwarts?
Sure. Yeah.
Biggest games, all single player games. I mean, Baldur's Gate it has co-op in it, but games without battle passes, games without many microtransactions, if any, are the biggest game. If you look at last year, the biggest game was Elden Ring. Another game that was not a battle pass certain game.
10 days ago, there's a Reddit post that says Baldur's Gate 3 has sold 2.5 million copies. That was 10 days ago.
PlayStation's not even out yet.
Correct.
Yeah. And it comes out a week before Starfield, when PlayStation people aren't going to get Starfield. This is going to be a huge game, and it's coming out at a perfect time to where it's not going to get forgotten in the Game of the Year thing, and it gets the ability to go on sale during the holidays. Which is
so 3 days ago. I don't know. This is this is just a Google search, but they're saying 4.4 million copies on Steam. So they're trying to get at least a baseline on it. So we know that Steam has a huge count, but we know that console players also come out in droves. And this game getting as much publicity and as much hype as it has prior to launch, at launch, and now post-launch, all prior to PS5 launch, 10 million?
Probably. Like in total?
Close. Yeah. Between both consoles. Yeah, not just 10 million on PlayStation, but 10 million. They're going to come out by Halloween and say we sold 10 million copies.
Yeah, especially like Elden Ring, bigger franchise, pedigree. That was like 16 million within a couple months. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility.
But Elden Ring was all 3 platforms all at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. And then this game will get another boost when it comes to Game Pass, and like who knows however long that comes.
Yeah, whenever they figure out how to develop it. Yeah.
If they figure out how to develop it on Xbox, then they'll probably get Game Pass money, because it'll be at that point where it's like, hey, this game's been out on other platforms forever. How do
they have the money now to start figuring out what's going on with the Xbox?
No, I don't even think they need the money. I think Phil Spencer calls them up and is just like,
well, I'm just saying that they have the money to put the resources into it right now, and then to say, because if I'm Phil Spencer, I'm like, I'll give you money when you show me it runs on the S.
But I also think he sees this game and is like, if this isn't on our platform because you guys didn't have the ability to get it on the platform.
How do we get the ability to do it? What do you need from me to get the ability to do it?
Yeah. Like, because it's like a no-brainer of just like, we need to have one of the biggest games on the year that is multi-platform, but for whatever reason it cannot run.
A perfect scenario for Xbox, and everybody's going to roll their eyes or whatever, but a perfect scenario for Xbox with this game is at the Video Game Awards, you say, on Xbox today.
Yeah, something like that. Of just like, hey, we did it, we worked together, got it.
Yeah.
Because PlayStation's already going to get the win because it's basically console exclusive when it releases.
Because it's probably like this is probably going to win. I don't even know what a Video Game Award is, but this is probably going to win best MMO or best,
or not MMO, but it's going to win like narrative or best role playing game. Probably hands down, it's going to get.
Yeah. But I mean, for it to win an award and then Spencer to come on stage and be like, okay, you can play it on Xbox tomorrow.
Yeah, that would
on
be
Game Pass or something.
Yeah. Especially like there's as far as Larian says, they're like, we don't plan to do any like expansions for it, but we'll look
I was gonna say this is not a service game, right? Like this is a full box game. Like what I'm starting, like what you get today is what's in the game.
Yeah, they said maybe they'll look at expansions based on the game's success, which they're probably looking at expansions now. But as of right now, when we're recording, what you buy September 2nd when the game comes out on PlayStation will be the full experience.
Okay.
So
that's awesome. Huge kudos to them.
Yeah. This is a type
fantastic job.
This feels like what happened with CD Projekt Red with Witcher 3. Where they're quietly making the Witcher franchise. Yeah,
just don't cyberpunk it.
Like they had good old games, in their back pocket, but it made CD Projekt Red the studio, the id studio. This is going to happen with Larian Studio, and this is probably when companies look to be like, you guys want to sell?
Or this is going to be like, where is Larian? Who I don't even know who the head of Larian is or whatever, but where is he going to show up on stage next? When and where? Like, is he going to show up at a Sony showcase? Is he going to show up at an Xbox event? Is he going to show up at a PC gaming event? Like, this guy is when like people are going to start paying attention in the next 12 months of like, where is this dude? What is he? Who is he talking to? Where is he going? What is he doing?
They can drop one of those dumb trailers that says nothing but from
when
the
it's
studios
ready.
Of like all they will have to say, they can go on an Xbox stage, a PlayStation stage, and just put Larian Studios, and then everyone's gonna like lose their shit.
Yep.
So
Larian Studios Skyrim : when it's ready.
Basically. They're definitely, and again, we're still in that like crazy companies want to buy things, so I'm sure they're probably getting offers. Hopefully they stay independent, but you couldn't blame them for cashing out if the opportunity comes.
Yeah.
Because I hate to be that guy, but anytime a studio gets successful, you have to then wonder, like, will they get acquired? Because this is the environment we're currently in with how that stuff works. But yeah, the video game industry will be affected by this game, but I don't think it's going to be as crazy as some of the people were acting of. Like, some people are saying, like, if another studio tries this, it will kill that studio. And it's just like, yeah, if they don't have a plan.
This is similar to when Bungie walked away from Microsoft and Halo. People are like, you're nuts, you're crazy, what are you doing? And this is when I mean, like, that's the biggest one that comes to mind right away, of like them just completely walking away. To do something completely different, or to do something their own way. Yes, I know they ran into Activision's arms, but they realized they probably needed money. I don't even know who published this Baldur's Gate 3. I'm assuming it was probably self-published. But or when
this is like when people were
Rockstar is
about
continuously
just running the cap. And then the Marlins win the World Series.
Yep.
It's like,
or just like this is why Rockstar is heads down on GTA 6. Like, when they release it, and it's for the most part GTA 6 is turning into a little bit of a service game, but for the in GTA 5, if you just wanted to play GTA 5 for the story thing, they haven't like added more story things to it, and it continues to move units and sell units because it's GTA. Like, the pandemic has helped a D&D game become more acceptable and more relevant and more accessible and acceptable. So
yeah, but good on Larian Studios. I look forward to seeing the random announcements that we
I look forward to playing their next game in 2030.
Basically. Unless they go the Divinity route and they release like a special deluxe edition with like, when they're like, we are doing an expansion.
Yeah.
Especially, I would imagine they should be able to do that without any issue, because like, again, high quality game, but it's not like bleeding edge tech that is like going to be a pain in the ass for them to.
No, I see tons of people playing it on Steam Deck.
So, like, they might, reasonably, they might go, like, the Elden Ring route, where, like, we still haven't got the first Elden Ring expansion, but that's fine. Like, they could take, like, 2 years to get that expansion out and then be good for it. So, we'll see where it goes from there. But that is all I have for news.
All right. So, what's delayed? Lollipop Chainsaw Repop delayed until 2024.
Yeah.
This is your wheelhouse?
Yeah, this is, a Lollipop Chainsaw remake got a name. Repop is the name for this remake, and they just said 2024. I think I've talked about it in the past. It's a little weird that this has like almost nothing to do with like the original developer, director, writers. So we'll see how this ends up turning out. I'm glad they're gonna take their time, hopefully get it right the first time. And I kind of expect them to announce like a partnership, like an Embracer Group or something down the line, because it kind of fits in that like spectrum of game. I think that was all that was.
Yeah, that's all I've seen so far. So, so what we're playing and watching. So for me, still hasn't been a lot of playing. I'm still recovering from my leg injury that I talked to everybody about. I'm good. I actually played softball last night. Part of the main reason for recording today. Playing in a little bit of a higher tier league, so I feel pretty good about how I did yesterday, and my leg didn't hurt. So thank you for a couple people that reached out and asked some questions about that, or were worried about me. I appreciate that. I took so we moved my daughter down to her dorm in Kentucky on Saturday. So she turned 21 on the 11th. So we did some stuff for her birthday on the 11th, and we Angela and I and her drove down to Kentucky on the 12th, and Angela and I drove back on the 12th. And then Owen's birthday was on the 14th. So, 2 birthdays within 3 days of each other. Owen's 8. And so for Owen's birthday, Angela and him did some stuff while I was at work. And then today, Owen and I went to go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. It's okay.
That's kind of what I expected, and I'm fine with that.
I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. The problem that I'm running into right now is, with movies in general, is that it's no longer just 90 minutes or 2 hours of just beginning, middle, and end. It's like, oh, this is setting up a trilogy. This is setting up a sequel. This is setting up a universe. I think
that's why I like Barbie. Like, Barbie really doesn't set up like anything. Like, you could milk it, but for the most part,
the post-credit scene teases something. Owen loved it, by the way. Owen thought it was perfect. So it just like the little twist that they did on, like, I'm okay with it. I'm not this old man get off my lawn kind of person. Like, the origin story is not the same. The it's similar, but it's not. It's it's different, and the different iterations of how movies and cartoons have handled Splinter.
I hate the human designs though. I like the way the turtles look. I don't like the way the humans look. But go on.
Yeah, the animation was a little rough. It's certain things. I got used to it. It had a couple things that were fun, fun and funny. But it was okay. Like I wasn't disappointed or anything like that. But it's just, I don't know. I'm trying not to be that person, but it's just like I just want the '80s Turtles. Like,
I mean that's reasonable. And Old Man, you do have I think they just put them all on YouTube, right?
I think they're coming to Paramount.
I think they also hit YouTube, or I might have just saw some bootleg stuff on it.
I have them on DVD.
Yeah.
So
you do have those, and they still make stuff.
I'm fine. Like I wanted to go see it. I know he wanted to see it. I love the fact that I can take my 8-year-old in 2023 to go see an intellectual property that I liked in 1986. Like I love that. Like that's cool. That's fine. Like him and I can have conversations about who his favorite turtle is, and and that's fine. It's just different. But
who is your favorite turtle, by the way?
Probably Donatello.
Okay, same. I'm a Donatello person. Yeah. Okay, what's Owens? Is he a Raphael kid?
He's a Leo.
He's a Leo kid. Okay, you know what? That's fine. As long as he's not a Mikey kid, because okay, just wanted to get that out there. Donatello is the best.
So yeah, I mean overall it was good. I'm not like, I'm sure when it comes out digitally we'll buy it. It's something, like just to have it, and it's turtles and I like turtles, and but it was just kind of one of those things. I was like, okay. Angela asked me when I got home, like, what's better, Super Mario Brothers or this? And Super Mario Brothers is better. So
yeah, that probably. I'm gonna see Turtles, but this might be one of those ones I wait for it to come out and then watch it. It's
with it being Nickelodeon, I expect it to be on Paramount before Halloween.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm banking on. I'll subscribe to Paramount for a weekend or a trial and watch it and be good with it. But yeah, I'm glad you didn't cross your arms and say that's not my Donatello or something weird.
Oh no, I'm never gonna be like that. I'm okay with change and evolution and stuff.
You take Owen,
not always for me.
Take Owen home and you make him watch like the old Turtles. It's like, this is the only Turtles that you need to see.
Like I'm enough to, like, I enjoyed the original Ninja Turtles movies and Secret of the Ooze and stuff like that when I was a kid. But I'm also to the point where when I tried that, like, hey Owen, let's watch this, I'm like, okay, we can stop. Like
yeah, no, I feel like every time I'm like, I'm gonna watch the Turtle movies, I don't think I finish them, to be honest. Like I put them on, watch the intro, and I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yep.
So I see it. I feel you on
that. But yeah, for the most part, that's it. I did buy Atlas Fallen, like I just mentioned. Downloaded on the ROG today. One of the coolest things that I've noticed, because I really hadn't messed with my ROG too much, we changed internet to fiber internet, and also Wi-Fi 6, obviously, and my ROG LA supports Wi-Fi 6. The issues and stuff I had updating and downloading on my other internet, gone.
Yeah.
Like it downloaded like 25 gigs over Wi-Fi like in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, so that was just like, wow. So that was pretty impressive. I haven't had a chance to really mess with it yet. I caught myself kind of falling into that rut. I saw like the reviews come out and some people talking about it, and it was kind of mid, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. And they're talking about like some enemies like glitching into walls and stuff like that, or having in-air combat problems, and I'm like, maybe I won't. And I'm like, no, I can't be my own hypocrite. Like, I wanted to play the game and find out for myself.
Yeah.
So,
and it's good. You have it now, and you said you have the next 2 days free or something.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably stream it tomorrow. Like those of you listening to this, or it might be on a replay, but I've downloaded it downstairs and I've downloaded it on my ROG. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most. So
that's good. Anything else?
Nope, that's pretty much it. So lots of traveling and birthdays. Sorry.
Yeah. So mine is mainly just one game that I'll review right now, and that's Sephonie. It's spelled SEPHONIE. Sorry, I'm bad at pronouncing things, so I'm just gonna go with that. I got a copy from the publishers for review, so just letting everyone know that. So this is basically a like 3D adventure platformer puzzle game. Follows the story of these three like scientist explorers from different backgrounds as they get shipwrecked on like a strange island and are exploring this island's creatures and organisms that they find through like a deep cavern system. So that's the premise. Gameplay wise, I would say this, when you look at it, it isn't the most impressive looking game. It gives the vibes that they were going for like a throwback, maybe PS2 platforming game. And I don't mean that as like an insult. I think genuinely that was kind of the look they were trying to go for. So it's not like the most detailed textures or architecture sort of thing. It definitely has a vibe, and the gameplay kind of aligns with that in terms of what type of platformer it is. But it does have like the modern things you would expect. So you got your wall running, you have different abilities you gain later, your dash abilities. So it's more complex than the platformers that we got back in the PS2 era. It's just, I can't look at this game and not think that that's what they were trying to do. I don't know if that was in fact what they were trying to do, but those are the vibes I got. I got a review code on the Switch, and I've been primarily playing things on the Switch when it's like an indie game, because I like playing stuff in portable mode, so this seemed like this would be the perfect opportunity to continue to play my Switch. And for the most part, the game runs pretty smooth. I will say platforming with that Joy-Con isn't the greatest thing. So it was one of those things where I had to bust out the Pro Controller just to get like a better feel for the platforming, because it does not have the smoothest platforming. It can get pretty complex as the game goes along and what you're trying to do. So you need like little tighter controls than what the Joy-Con can provide. Platforming can feel a little challenging, but one thing I do like about this game is when you go into like an area, there's a bunch of different like options you can go in a specific area, and every time I go into a spot, I feel like I have to like actually like rotate my camera, look around, and just be like, okay, I think I can get there. I think I can get there. And just seeing if I can actually pull that off has been kind of fun and interesting. And then finding like little secret stuff that's hidden, because there's a bunch of stuff that is hidden around the levels. I do need to mention that there's also a puzzle element. So when you do find like an animal or like an organism or like a plant, you can like basically like synthesize and find out more from that creature by completing like a little match 3 puzzle game. So that is like the main like hook outside of the platforming. So when you find something, you do this little puzzle game. It's never too complicated. Again, it's more like a match 3 thing where they give you a bunch of pieces, and then if you get 3 of the pieces together, they get wiped, and then that goes to a bar to complete the puzzle. So nothing too complex or complicated. Overall, I would say the game is definitely going for like a more relaxed, easy vibe with the music and the aesthetic, because it's using very like light colors, bright colors, a little washed out pastel vibe sometimes. So it's definitely a pretty chill experience. And the game will tell you like, hey, you could collect this, but it's not required. Like there's like side stuff you can collect. It also tells you like, hey, you can switch between the 3 main characters at any time to get their perspective on certain things, but it's not going to change anything mechanically for you. And it's also optional for you to do that. And you're allowed to replay those puzzles pretty much anytime you hit a checkpoint. The checkpoint system is actually very like nice, which is good because again, like I said, like the platforming can feel a little rough sometimes, and you're fighting the camera from time to time, which is why I think it gives that throwback vibe. So the checkpointing is really nice and simple. They have checkpoints like all over the area you're in, and as long as you pass that little checkpoint thing, if you die, you'll just spawn there automatically in a couple seconds. So it's a really nice thing. And also, if you hold down one of the buttons, you can basically just immediately zap back to that checkpoint. So if you realize like, oh shit, I did not make this jump, you're not gonna have to wait for you to completely fall to your death. You can just immediately hold the B button, I believe, and then just hit that checkpoint again. So again, nice. It's a game that's not putting a ton of pressure on you. You're just supposed to kind of enjoy the story, and the story is well written, and it's something I wasn't really expecting when I first like turned on the game and I saw the visuals, because when I saw the visuals, I was just like, oh no, what did I really get into? And then it is until You know, you get really into the storytelling, and then you also get a good hold for like how the platforming works. And as they like slowly add like different abilities and different things you can do, the game kind of comes together for a nice experience. And overall, something that I always love. It's not a super long game. It's like maybe 6-7 hours, somewhere around there. And that's
which is kind of perfect for a Switch and handheld mode.
And it's exactly why when this game was like offered up, I was like, I would like to try it on a Switch. It's available on Xbox, it's available on PlayStation, it's on PC, but the Switch and handheld mode seemed like the direction I wanted to take this. And it turned out to be like a really good experience to mess around with, especially, you know, it's broken down into like different like caverns, caves, areas. So it's nice to just pick up and be like, okay, I'm going to explore this area for like 20-30 minutes, get a little bit of the story, and then just move on, you know, put the Switch away and come back to it later. So yeah, this was a surprising game. I would say if you do look at it, look at the trailers, give the game a chance. The visuals might put some people off in terms of what they expect like a game to look like. But I think this studio were trying for a specific art style and gameplay style, and I think they actually did a decent job of pulling that off. So if you're not a big fan of like platformers, and that can be, you know, a little challenging, a little frustrating, this might be something you don't want to look at, but I think it's chill enough that like everybody should be able to get something out of it. So it's a game that I do recommend people check out.
Did you say how much it was?
Let me look up. I just had the...
Yeah, and I was going to ask you too, in terms of like the precision platforming. Have you ever thought about, or do you own like any of like the Split Pad Pros or anything like the Hori things? Like the controller?
So I just have a Pro controller and the Joy-Cons. So it's.
I know you're not. I know you're not opposed to taking your Switch and propping it and hooking the Pro controller to it. Typically, when I'm using the Pro controller, I'm playing on the TV.
So I remember I have that weird frame thing that like attaches to the Pro controller and like elevates the Switch.
Right.
So that's my go-to thing for when I play like something that needs a little bit more precision than a Joy-Con.
Okay.
So it looks like on Xbox it's $20. So I'm assuming every platform it's $20 as well. Nice. So yeah, it came out about a month ago.
So that's kind of like the what Matt's been asking about the gamer sandwich.
This might be
sandwiches cost about $20 now.
This is a dinner for two. At a Subway, you know, sort of scenario.
Have you been to Subway recently?
No, since I got the new job, it's so...
Yeah, it's like $13 to $17 for a sub at Subway now, man.
Oh, man, no, I'd rather eat a Potbelly than get a real sandwich. But yeah, no, I do recommend checking this game out. Just check out a trailer, see if you vibe with it. It's one of those games that I think you'll know relatively quickly whether like this art style and this sort of game works for you, but I also would say give it a chance because I was surprised with how well I was entertained by it.
Nice.
But overall, that's kind of all I've been playing. I've just kind of dove into this, started Twisted Metal. Haven't finished it, Dave, but I would probably finish it this weekend. I rushed Dave through it, and then I'm over here dragging.
You didn't rush me. I wanted to watch it.
So doing that, still watching Succession, almost done. We got like 3 episodes left on that. And then I introduced Sarah to Remote Play for the PS5. So she has discovered that she can now just Remote Play to her MacBook, and then the TV's free to do whatever you want on the TV. So probably gonna burn through Twisted Metal and Succession just a little bit faster with that new ability in our back pocket. Also, surprisingly, Remote Play works pretty damn well. I haven't used Remote Play in forever, not since like on my Vita during the early PS4.
I didn't have a great experience with it on this PC with my PlayStation upstairs.
Now you got better internet.
Yeah.
So you should give it a shot.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
You should actually Remote Play to your ROG.
Yeah. I think that you might need to send me some links because I'm seeing some stuff about emulation.
Okay, I can I can send you.
Yeah.
But the ROG should be able to run just the PC Remote Play app. You should just see how well it picks up with the controllers on the ROG.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna have to really spend some time with that and do some kind of cool like video review of that, even though it won't be until like September. But you know, just telling people of like my experience with it as transitioning back and forth as not a
PC.
I mean, I wouldn't claim, elitist.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, no, Dave, we'll talk about some emulators in the future if you're looking into emulating some stuff. But yeah, really, that's all I've been playing is that one game and just watching a bunch of TV.
Awesome. So it sounds like that game. I looked at the trailer real quick while you're doing it. It looks interesting.
Yeah.
So. All right, so we're going to hit some questions really quick. So you can send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can post them on Facebook. You can post them on Twitter. You can post them on Discord, either with that hashtag or directly in the server, much like Stefan has done. What's the last show you binge watched an entire season in a weekend? Well, most recently, probably within a couple of days, was Twisted Metal. Yeah. I think I had that done in about 5 or 6 days?
I think
probably?
so. Surprisingly, you hit me up like I watched an episode, and then the following week you're like, I finished it.
Yeah.
How many episodes was it again?
7,
10?
6, 8.
Okay.
I don't remember. Yeah. They're only half hours though.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah. So that was probably the most recent thing. I have done some, certain times like I'll get fall down the loop of like Cobra Kai, when Cobra Kai has come out, or All American. Like I wait for that to come to Netflix, and I kind of just not necessarily in like a weekend, but I kind of just I get it done at a point where I'm like, oh my god, I watched 17 episodes of that show in 10 days or something like that. so what about you?
So I would say probably that first season of Succession, just a couple weeks ago. Got through that like relatively fast. The first 3 seasons of Barry, I didn't watch them as they were airing. I watched them like after 3 seasons had passed, and I finished that relatively quickly. I think Wednesday Addams, if all that released at one time, I think me and Sarah ended up going through that over a course of a weekend. So yeah, if a big show comes out, usually we'll try and drag it out a little bit, but end up giving in like 2 days into trying to just piecemeal like episode a day. We end up caving usually. So yeah, couple shows recently definitely has happened. But it's so hard. Like I do like watching stuff every week sort of thing. Like I really got into watching The Last of Us partly because I had to wait a week between episodes.
I think that like The Last of Us was like that was end up kind of being must see TV. So recently for me, like must watch as soon as possible. It kind of started with Mandalorian on Disney Plus. Pandemic time, Last of Us, Ted Lasso season 1 and part of season 2 I think were like that. I kind of fell off a little bit, but then like having access to all of Twisted Metal instead of like having to wait. I think it actually we talked about it a long time ago where like it was a concern of ours, like how much faith do you have in this thing, like are you trying to keep your sub count going, and I think they didn't really know.
Yeah, and it turned out to be the biggest show on Peacock.
Correct, but I also think that the fact that it was all there was helpful.
Yeah.
I think that could have, if that was like an every Monday kind of thing, that could have hurt. I think it could have hurt it, actually.
Especially it sounded like the first episode wasn't really getting a lot of people super into it. It wasn't until like episode 2 or 3 that people were like, hey, the show's actually not bad. So it could have definitely hurt them real bad if they piecemealed it.
Yeah. All right, and our next question is from Robert. Would you ever buy a console purely for a single game? I am toying with getting an Xbox for Starfield. Would this mean my PS5 wouldn't love me as much, or will I be okay? With a big smiley face. First of all, you'll be totally fine playing on multiple platforms, just for the record. Coming from a console specific generation for a while that we were, to this, it's actually kind of like completely less stressful.
It's a little liberating. Just a little bit.
Yeah, that's the better word. Yeah, that's what I can. So that I think you'd be totally fine. And yeah, 100%. Like, you can totally buy I typically, if Owen wasn't born, I would own a Switch because of Zelda.
Yeah.
Like,
you think Owen every day for your Switch. You're just like, hey, buddy.
No, I still remember like a long time ago, I bought like a PS2 off somebody when Angela and I first got married because I just wanted to play video games again. I had taken a break from video games for a while. I had a PS2 for a little while. I wasn't really enjoying the stuff that was on there at the current time. Wind Waker came out. I sold the PS2 for the GameCube specifically for Wind Waker. Like, that's why I did it. And I don't ever regret that decision. So Yes, 100%. Like you can totally buy a console just for one game.
I feel like I was buying consoles for just one game all the way up until like the PS4 era. You know, like especially when you're younger, you're kind of only buying a console for like one specific game that you really want to play. And it wasn't until like the PS4 era where they didn't have to announce any games. I knew I was buying it. Same thing with the PS5. And shit, I mean, I bought the Xbox for no games, to be completely honest. Like, because Xbox just hasn't had.
I bought the Xbox for the subscription.
Yeah. So like, there you go. Same, basically. So like, it's totally fine if you want to buy an Xbox for Starfield. That's fine. Like, I technically bought my PS3 for Heavenly Sword. Like, I bought my PS2 for SmackDown versus Raw. You know, or whatever wrestling game was at the time.
I would say, Robert, if I were you, like I would try, even do it now. I think you have a decent PC, if I remember correctly. But it all depends on where you want to play video games on your couch or whatever you're doing. You know, that's
big
fine.
HDMI cable. I have a 50-footer just in case I need it.
Yeah, that too. But also, I would, with your PC, if it's decent, I would just. I think Starfield's going to be cloud.
Probably.
I would go do Game Pass for like $5 for 90 days or whatever it is, and Game Pass Ultimate or whatever, and see if you have it on the, you know, and mess with the cloud tech a little bit first. Your PC might be able to handle it through the cloud, and depending on your internet connection, it might be totally fine. You know, I don't think that buying an Xbox is a mistake at all, especially with what it looks like, the trajectory is going, and I feel like you're possibly future proofing yourself better. So.
Yeah, it's okay to buy for one console. I mean,
yes,
legit, like almost every console I bought for one game, and I happen to find other games that I liked on the platform to keep me going.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that is our show for this week. You can follow us on Twitter X at Digital Days Pod. You can follow Michael at the First MJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. Our Discord server has. I feel like as I've been putting stuff on Twitter, I'm trying to get more cognizant of putting it in Discord as well. So you can, you know, like we've got a bunch of different channels going on there. The collection thing kind of goes up and down depending on what's going on. You know, Michael's pretty good about posting in there, and then usually it ends up being a conversation for a little while. I'm not as avid as a collector as Michael is, but there's some people in the community who have some great conversations. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. And our Facebook group and Discord server are linked in the show notes. Next week, I just looked again. Immortals of Avenue comes out. That's definitely on my short list of something, and I'm actually having a medical procedure, so I will be off work for 4 days next week. Should not affect me doing the podcast at all. Because it's not until Thursday, the 26th, I think, or something. But so like I'll have some free time to definitely try some stuff out and play. So, you know, if everything goes according to, I should be able to come down here and play and stream Immortals and stuff. I'm really looking forward to that game. So, I don't know. Other than that, what you got on your agenda in the next week or so?
Have another indie game that I plan to try and have a review for next week, and I'm still playing Fallout 3. I'm still playing Fallout 3 just a lot. So. But hopefully I'll have Twisted Metal finish, and then me and Dave will be able to have like a random little spoiler cast discussion, because we kind of were not rooting against the show. We just had doubts about its...
You take too long. I might have to start rewatching some of it to refresh myself.
Don't worry, Dave. We'll get it done. I'll get it done.
So, all right. So I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick.